Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to another Explainer, where we take really fascinating pieces of history and break them down so we can truly understand how our world was built. Today, we're looking at the invention of the sextant. Now, you might picture a lone genius standing on a storm-tossed ship, suddenly having this brilliant flash of insight that saves maritime navigation forever, right? But today, we're tackling myth versus reality. And the reality of how this absolutely vital piece of technology came to be is just so much more interesting than a simple fairy tale of invention.
How does a world-changing invention actually happen? I want you to really think about that for a second. When humanity faces a massive, complex problem, like the infamous longitude problem at sea, how do we actually build the tools to solve it? Does it happen overnight? Is it just one person's incredible brainpower? In this explainer, we're going to use the exact historical record of the sextant to show you how monumental tools truly come to life.
Well, here's the truth. The whole Eureka myth is a complete lie. The invention of the sextant wasn't born from a single genius moment by one solitary person who just suddenly figured the whole shebang out while staring up at the stars. Instead, true innovation is a multi-stage story. It's a rigorous, sometimes kind of messy process of independent discovery and continuous refinement. It's really about different minds bumping into the exact same realities and slowly iterating on a design until it finally works perfectly. The development of this instrument can be broken down into 3 distinct, fascinating stages, and we're going to walk through each one right now.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer suspense of the year 1731. We're looking at the first key stage of our story here, the discovery of the fundamental principle. On one hand, we have John Hadley, an English mathematician and an expert instrument maker. And on the other hand, we've got Thomas Godfrey, a glazier, basically a tradesman who works with glass, living all the way over in Philadelphia. These are 2 very different men, living in completely different worlds with totally different backgrounds. Yet, independently and almost simultaneously around 1731, they both developed the exact same core design. They both created a doubly reflecting instrument that used 2 mirrors to measure the angle between 2 distant objects. It's literally 2 separate minds unlocking the exact same scientific door at the exact same moment in history.
But wait, there is a crazy historical twist here. Sir Isaac Newton, that Isaac Newton, had actually explored this exact concept earlier. In his unpublished notes, Newton had already figured out the doubly reflecting principle that Hadley and Godfrey would later become famous for. The catch? His work was kept entirely secret. It remained unpublished and completely unknown to the public at the time Hadley and Godfrey were making their big breakthrough. Just imagine if Newton had published those notes. The timeline of global navigation could have shifted by decades. But because he didn't, the knowledge remained hidden, and the world just had to wait for Hadley and Godfrey to independently rediscover the magic.
So, let's take a step back and clarify what they were actually building. A true sextant covers a 60-degree arc, exactly 1/6 of a full circle, which, by the way, is exactly where the word sextant comes from. Now, it's important to note that Hadley and Godfrey's original 1731 instruments weren't actually true sextants. They were often referred to as octants, or sometimes Hadley's quadrants, because they covered a smaller arc. The evolution into the modern 60-degree design that we recognize today took a few more decades of really hard work and refinement.
And this brings us to the second key stage, and a really crucial figure, John Bird. Let's just slow down and focus on him for a second. He was a prominent London instrument maker, and it wasn't until the late 1750s, more than 20 years after Hadley and Godfrey's initial independent discoveries, that those early octants finally evolved. Bird is widely credited with taking that earlier fundamental principle and expanding it to create the very first true practical navigation sextants with that larger, much more useful 60-degree arc. This wasn't some sudden leap. It was the careful, deliberate work of a master craftsman refining an existing idea to make it infinitely more useful for sailors out in the open ocean.
And this brilliantly illustrates the final and maybe most critical hurdle in our story of innovation: scale and accessibility. Because even after the design was perfected, making these instruments was a massive challenge. The old way required engraving the measurement scales onto the instrument entirely by hand. I mean, this was an arduous, highly expensive process. It made sextants incredibly rare and very difficult for the average sailor to get their hands on. But then, we enter the 1770s and meet a man named Jesse Ramsden. Ramsden invented a dividing engine. This machine allowed for the precise, efficient mass production of the instrument's scales. Suddenly, we transition away from rare, expensive works of art to affordable, highly precise tools.
So the crucial point is that Jesse Ramsden's dividing engine is what finally made the Sextant a practical, reliable tool for everyday navigation. By making it both incredibly accurate and highly affordable, the dividing engine allowed the Sextant to be used widely by mariners all across the globe. This was the missing link needed to finally solve the infamous longitude problem at sea safely. You see, it wasn't just about having the right mathematical idea, it was about having the engineering means to manufacture that idea precisely and cheaply enough that every single ship's captain could have one in their hands when they needed it most.
Let's move to and see how this builds across the timeline because it is striking. We start back in 1731 with the fundamental principle of double reflection discovered by Hadley and Godfrey, and of course, secretly by Newton before them. Then we have a massive gap until 1757 when John Bird painstakingly crafts the very first practical sextants with that 60-degree arc. And finally, we jump ahead to the 1770s when Jesse Ramsden brings us reliable, affordable mass production. This visual summary proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that solving the longitude problem was truly a team sport played out across several decades. It required mathematicians, glaziers, master craftsmen, and brilliant engineers all unknowingly passing the baton across the generations.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. What other modern tools that you rely on were built through this same slow, invisible refinement? Think about the smartphone in your pocket, the computer you use for work, or the medical technology that keeps your family healthy. We're so often sold the easy eureka myth of the lone genius, but the real story of human progress is always exactly what we saw today with the Sextant. It's an ongoing, highly collaborative relay race of ideas, iteration, and mechanical refinement. So next time you use a piece of brilliant modern technology, ask yourself, whose unpublished notes, whose hand-carved prototypes, and whose mass production engines actually made it possible? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating history with me today. Keep asking questions, keep looking at the structure behind the stories, and I'll see you in the next explainer.